Welcome to the Celebrate a Sister podcast. I'm your host, Emma Walkinshaw, author, body confidence coach, and founder of The Embodied Woman and 21 Minutes of Morning Magic. You'll also find me on the yoga mat hosting retreats here in Australia and internationally. Each week, I chat with incredible women around self-belief, body acceptance, and embracing who we are, especially in midlife. We share real stories, challenge outdated beauty standards, and grow together through honest conversations. I am so glad you are here. Enjoy. A big warm welcome to Amanda Parker, my guest today on Celebrate a Sister podcast. I'm going to share with you a little bit about who Amanda is before we dive into our wonderful conversation today on all things around aging, being a business owner, and also being a podcast host herself. So let me introduce to you Amanda Parker. Yes, Amanda is a holistic healer, intuitive therapist, and co-founder of Mayella Organics. With over 35 years of clinical experience, Amanda blends ancient wisdom with modern science to help others heal and thrive. Her diverse toolkit includes reflexology, astrology, aromatherapy, remedial and intuitive massage, and a lifelong passion for natural-based wellness. A devoted medicine woman, artisan, and formulator, Amanda channels her deep connection with the rhythms of life into creating botanical skincare and wellness products that nurture the body and soul. Amanda is also the co-host of the Girl Awakening podcast and a mother of 2 divine adult children. Amanda's path is rooted in community, connection, and conscious living. Welcome, dear friend. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you, Emma. Oh my goodness, hearing you read all that out is just takes me on a bit of a journey, and just I feel all warm and cozy all over. Thank you.
So wonderful to have. Now, we met a few years ago, and I've had the pleasure and honor of sitting on the other side of this and being your guest on your podcast. And I've had the lovely joy of being in your beautiful space where you heal and you work in your gorgeous little studio. Although I know how you have moved since then, but I've been in your beautiful energy, and you are nothing short of miraculous. And like we met the other week and we were at an event together, and you loved when I said this, and I'm going to say it, we got to actually mix auras.
Oh, yeah, I got I think a bit of a hot flush when you said that. It was just, divine, and it's really stuck as a way of, because, we're mixing with people so often, and I've thought of it several times since then, Emma.
Because we are now being in business. You are in business and you are formulating, often working one-on-one with clients or busy doing your things, shipping products out and all the things you do. I feel like it's been, in a way, great. Yes, we've had this shift in the world where we get to work at home, but like I said to you, I am so missing being in the same space with people. Hence, us meeting at that beautiful event the other week was just so wonderful to hug and to say hello and be in each other's energy. I feel like, for me, I've been really missing connection.
Oh, so true. I think, it was wonderful to have the world reset a little bit, one of the silver linings, and slow down a little bit and come back into that, the sanctuary that our home is. But definitely, with that dominance that we have of relying on the internet for connection, real people connection is, I think, suffering quite a lot. And, your community, your tribe is such a beautiful, as you said, mixing auras, that energy, that connection you have when you're talking to people and in the space, what can happen when you're with each other is just so wonderful.
Yeah, there is definitely more of that. I'm welcoming in is getting in the same room with people, that's for sure.
And choosing who that is as well, being discerning, around who that is, and saying, healthy boundaries, yes, when you want to say yes, and no when, it's not quite aligning, or, it's not something that you really want to be immersed in.
Which isn't always easy. It's not always easy to tell the truth.
True.
Sometimes we want to run and hide from that. it is tricky often to say how we feel and say no to things because we feel obligated like we should. I'm definitely a practice. I'm practicing.
Well done. Yeah, I admit I am doing that too, because it's easy to sometimes too when you've got, I'll say, hard things in front of you to do, to allow yourself to be distracted even with a little social occasion, or a connection with people, or even just going outside and not coming back for a while,
Yeah.
and avoiding the things. So it all goes hand in hand, I feel. Mm.
It does. Now, today there was a couple of little topics that I mentioned to you that I wanted to go with you. I would love to hear my podcast and my community. I talk lots about relationship with self and relationship with body. And
Mhm.
I'd really love to hear yourself. How's your relationship been with yourself? How has it evolved over the years, and being a mum and being a business owner through your 30s, 40s, and on? Tell me, how has your relationship with yourself evolved?
A lot, a lot. I think, it's quite a discovery process of, like, I don't feel that I'm a person who thinks very often what age I am, but, sometimes there's situations where you realize that you have wisdom and you're not that 20-year-old anymore. So I feel that over the different phases of my life, I didn't have my children until I was in my 30s. So I was an older parent, which I'm extremely grateful for that timing. um, yeah, so it's interesting because I keep referring from myself to my time in the clinic years. Like, clients are an interesting experience for so many reasons. The reasons why they come to you, or me in particular, why they're what our relationship is about. And I've learned so much from my clients over the years, and I'm extremely grateful for those relationships. A lot of self-reflection in that space too, around, which refers into this, what we're talking around with, my relationship with my body. Because people trust you with their body when you're working with them in the healing space. So there's no, I say it's very hard not to question your own relationship with your body and your health, and how your body's feeling, and how you're honoring your body, and how you're looking after your body. I think if you're working with integrity in the healing space. And sometimes people have been uncomfortable when they first started to come and see me because they're uncomfortable with their bodies. But yet they really want to change or shift some things. And I take it as a great honor working with anybody, babies through to the elderly. And in the space of working with people in their bodies, it's a language of communication. And it's, you might be working on a leg, or a head, or, a stomach. And it takes a relationship with myself to be able to convey to my client that they're safe, and that it's not really their body that I'm looking at. They don't need to be self-conscious. It is their beingness, and that I'm getting a communication from their beingness in the relationship of how we're working together. So I'm working on tissue, but I'm also working on so much more than their tissue. And when I've applied that to myself over the years, I feel like I've been very blessed, if you say, to look at my body in a different way, from that, rather than judgment, or categorizing myself in different ways, and not seeing myself as needing to be perfect, and being comfortable just, I guess, in my own skin, just with how I show up, I guess. And in my work and my ethos is all about natural, and true beauty is a light within the heart. And I think there's been different times where I've been quite self-conscious, say, of, some of my features, like, I have the family nose. things like that. Um, and when I contemplate things like, say, cosmetic surgery and changing myself, there's this feeling in my body of like, oh, that doesn't feel right. That straight away I just get this, but it's you. It's you.
Mm.
And so I just go with that and
Yeah.
don't judge myself for the things. I think when I was younger, it was probably a little bit more difficult, like say when I was in my teens and in my 20s. And I do recall having one job where I was a hostess in a hospitality industry, and the requirement was to wear the hair up or pulled away from the face. And I basically just refused to do that. I always was well presented, but I felt self-conscious of my facial features, my profile, my nose, things like that. Um, and I thought I looked nicer with my hair down. So I got away with it for quite a while. And then one day was called into a meeting with management, and management had called in the big boys, and they said, we've spoken to you several times about your hair and this and that. And I just said to them, well, I feel self-conscious about that. And I don't feel comfortable, and I feel much more comfortable like this. And I, do a lot to be well presented, and, my mannerisms with the customers, etc. And the big boys just looked at me and they looked at the manager and they said, she's fine, leave her alone. And that was it. And I remember thinking afterwards, I felt so brave, for just saying that. And I think, there was a lot of pressure to be sitting in a particular, choose what clique you want to be in with your appearance. You're
Yeah.
either this or you're that. And I think people like Celeste Barber do fantastic work to, you know, create disruption in the space
Yeah.
of what is, acceptable and what is perfection. And, you know, where um, where we, I guess, where we should hold ourselves, and that whether it doesn't feel right or not. And I think what I get most concerned about with people is their relationship with themselves. Do they talk kindly to themselves? Do they ask if they're comfortable with how they're looking, or does it feel like them when they do what they do in the morning to get ready to step out in the world?
Yeah. And what I'm hearing there, Amanda, is uniqueness. You have, even though you've had those little things in your 20s where you've thought maybe my nose, but even that self inquiry of saying, well, I could do cosmetic surgery, but then feeling into that and saying, but this is me.
Mm.
That situation with work, pull your hair back, and you being brave enough to say, I actually feel more comfortable like this because this is me unique. Because this is the thing, right? I feel like in this day and age, there's a lot of, like you say, perfection and beauty standards that everyone's to look the same way.
Mm.
How is it that someone can wear their hair down and be more comfortable with it? Someone can wear their hair back and it's not a thing. Or someone can express themselves uniquely in whatever that is, instead of, which we see a lot, and particularly here on the Gold Coast. I feel like the Gold Coast, we are particularly amplified here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because we're in a warmer climate and less clothes are on, but there's even a certain, I call it like a certain uniform form of the sheeple, I call them, the sheeple that wear all the similar clothing. And right now, Amanda, you could be running through your head on your morning walk. You know what the uniform is. We
Yes.
know what they're all wearing. We also know what they've perhaps had done to their face
Mm.
and their hair and their eyelashes and their fingernails to all look the same. Where is our uniqueness? And I feel like this is the beauty of aging and working on the relationship with ourselves, is that we can actually, doesn't mean, I say it doesn't mean that I don't know if I'll ever get to the word love myself, but I certainly respect myself. I certainly trust myself, and I certainly know I can rely on myself. I don't know if I'm at love yet, but I've got those.
Amazing, solid foundations, I think, Emma. Those are
Yeah.
amazing foundations, because I think it would be surprising if, to ask people, how many of those four would say, yeah, I've got that, I've got that. There's a lot of self-doubt in the space. And what I do love around, there's definitely a conformity, uniformity out there. And a lot of investment going into that space to sit there as well, which is also a little bit interesting to observe.
Yeah.
But then there are some young people also who have that freedom within themselves, which I just adore, to be choosing to express themselves very creatively. And
Yes.
I think that is a wonderful thing to see as well, to break up the sheeple a little bit.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of polarity. I know exactly what you mean. There is a certain energy of free spiritness with our young people, and then there is the sheeple, the conformity, the uniform. And it is, I don't know if there's much in between, like what I see. I don't know if there's much in between, but that's wonderful. But how do we find ourselves even, and not to criticize, the ones that are investing in that? It's not about criticizing, saying it's wrong, but it is, we all go through a process to find ourselves. We just do, don't we? It's just part of, and becoming to a wise woman. I feel like you've also had the privilege of working with people and their bodies. And you said before, them coming to you and feeling self-conscious, but you helping them, being the facilitator of them, trusting their body through the healing process. And perhaps would it be fair to say you've also seen lots of different bodies, and just there's an acceptance and a purity there too, knowing that a body is a body. It's a body.
Oh, yes, yeah, absolutely. It's a body, it's a body, it's a body, and it's your vessel. It's
Yeah.
something to be grateful that you have a vessel that is able, it's not until you have illness or conditions where you're restricted in your physical being that you start to look at things differently, which can be very confronting and
Yeah.
obviously sad as well. But we are so gifted with our bodies and what our bodies do for us every day. And even doing reflexology with people, people go, I never knew my feet could feel so much. And it's quite amazing really then when they get up and walk and they go, oh my God, my feet, I just feel different all over, but my feet feel like brand new. And they form a totally different relationship with that one part of themselves. And I love that, awakening people up to themselves in that way, and those things that we do take for granted about ourselves.
For our listeners, Amanda, just even that's even such a fascinating thing, because I would say over the years, I've heard many people, they either have a love-hate relationship with their feet. Some people go, don't look at my feet and forget they're there, they're ugly. Other people go, oh no, my feet are beautiful. So it's a real love-hate. So for listeners, what is reflexology, and why would someone come to you for reflexology, or when would you use that tool for someone?
Okay, so reflexology is a combination of modalities in a way that it's similar to acupuncture in that it relates to um, the meridians or lines of communication through your body. And it's actually like a map of your full body, if you like. So your big toe is your head, your brain. Um, the arch of the inside of your foot is the spinal cord. Your left foot, the heart sits on the left, the liver sits on the right. It's literally a map. It's like if you get a cheese slice and pop it through your body, like you get these lines of communication. And working on the feet is diagnostic. You can pick up different things that are happening in the body, congestion, blockages, crystallizing, different things like that. And also, my teacher used to call it like a hose, and you'd turn the tap on and off to unblock the hose. So you're actually working physically on creating change and shift in the body and working with the body intelligence. It's quite wonderful. So it's a particular type of like movement that you do with your hands. And I remember when I first started many years ago, I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do this. My hands are just like so sore right now.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you've got these little muscles in there that are just, yeah, your hands transform. So And again, is that sensitivity that comes with working with the tissues, the body, the beingness of the person, that you pick up different things that are happening with the body. And the feet, as I joke with people, it tells people stories. They talk a lot.
Well, it's the soul is the soul, right? SOULSOLE. The soul is
Well,
the soul.
well, yeah, that's very good. I love your sayings. So true. Yes, yeah, absolutely. So and there was a lady, Eunice Ingham, who was an American lady, who brought, I'll say, the East to the West with reflexology, and was one of the pioneers that really laid down, really clear and fundamental direction with reflexology and how it could be applied. And one of the most wonderful things about it is that if there's, say, cancer or conditions happening in the body that you may not be able to work on the body, you can work with the body through the feet and the hands as well, actually. But the feet are a much more, say, clear conduit for results. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful, supportive modality for anyone or anything. And I can completely understand the minute you probably touch them, they start to talk. And even like you say, working with the being and that soul connection, of course they talk. It's like a little window to their soul, through their soul.
Yeah, I love that. Soul through the soul. That is a fabulous. Yes. And pregnancy as well, things like that. It's wonderful to work with pregnant women, the elderly. There's so many wonderful things you can tap into with the feet, and how you can support the body and the beingness, and get quite wonderful results. Even babies, it's fabulous with wind or colic, things like that. Very receptive little bodies. Yeah.
Beautiful. And even if we think, not that I'm a religious person at all, and I don't know much about religion at all, but even if we think like any visuals of biblical, it's around the feet, isn't it? Even if we think about ritual and honoring someone and deep reverence for someone, it's around the feet.
True. Yes, yes. I mean, Jesus was always bathing people's feet, a very
Yeah.
humble act of healing, and yeah,
Yeah.
seeing the person.
Beautiful. I love that. So to all of our listeners, I want to come and see you for reflexology now. Of course I do. Of course I do. Now I
Mm.
wanted to ask around being a beautiful medicine woman and caring for people, but also running a business, having an entrepreneurial spirit as well. And you've been in business for how many years? Now I'm drinking your beautiful tea. People can't see me, but your tea would have to be one of the most good. And I can see why it won an award, because it's absolutely gorgeous. And I used to serve it at the yoga studio when I owned the yoga studio, and everyone would comment. So your tea is absolutely gorgeous, Amanda. So can you share what's the balance for you between having a business and also being so heart-centered and nurturing? How has that played out for you over the years?
Oh, it's been a true valleys and mountains process. And I think because it's people say that healers are not very good business people, because the nature of a healer is to give. So it really is a process of learning good business skills and good infrastructure and good foundations. And I have, and my children, I'll say that. So I had an urban spa, which is actually where I met Joe, my co-host of Girl Awakening, in 2000, and got married that year and started a new business. And then in 2002, my son decided to join us, and the creative process is very powerful.
Yeah.
And it's that again is also another adjunct to that whole process of business. It's literally often a baby or family as well, an extension of yourself. And then when you have children, you do get divided. So you're in a nurturing phase and an action phase, and they don't often always cross over very well. So I've had over the years to learn many different skills. I do love business. I love helping people find things that serve them well in life. And I do enjoy, one of the things that was exciting about starting Mayella was going from the clinical space with the one-on-one process to a greater, wider community and helping people find things, through the wider community. That was one of our momentums. I've had to identify what I do well and what I don't do well, and get good at delegating. And I was very fortunate with Mayella in that my mother was the co-founder with me of that business when my children were little, and bringing to life products that I would talk to my clients about and saying, go and find it, and then they'd come back and say, well, I forgot, or I couldn't find quite what you were saying, and things like that. And so the momentum to actually say, well, here's something that's exactly what you need, and I know exactly what's in it, kind of was sparked. And fortunately, my mother was an amazing businesswoman and had that sort of like admin, structure side of things. That was her forte. So I think that was a great weaving of two people's passions to create one, embodiment. And I think business is definitely one of those things where identifying what you're good at and not being too proud to say, well, I need help here, or not being afraid of having those conversations of saying, I need support or I need help. What do I, where do I look? And again, communities, things like We Are One Roof, which I know you're a part of as well, and Gold Coast Women's Health Network. Those connections are amazing because you can lean in and find people that are there to co-create with, and everything just seems to flow so much better than trying to do it all yourself. I have kind of burnt out a few times over the years where I've definitely tried to do too much myself, and learning those lines where, okay, the balance is really critical to be able to do what I love, can have longevity in there. I think that's been one of the greatest skills that I've learned in business over the years.
Oh gosh, Amanda, I so identify with mountains and valleys and being able to delegate and admit when I need help and when I'm not good at something. And that's the tricky thing, being an entrepreneur and having a business and doing all the things, thinking that you should know, and thinking that why is it that this is really difficult for me, yet I'm flourishing here. And that is the challenge. It sounds like the perfect duo, you and your mum being able to support you in ways that you needed, and you're both in your own lane, but yet build a thriving business. Is your mum still in the business with you?
So she passed, it will be 2 years in August. Sadly,
Did she?
we had a cancer journey for a couple of years, and I was her carer through that, and my sister also. And so that was quite a big, valley to cross through, and also to, again, with, make that decision to pull back a bit from the business to better care for her, and also manage some of the things that she wasn't able to do anymore. And it took her a lot to want to surrender some of those things because she loved being a part of everything. And, even in palliative care, she was telling the nurses around our rose olivine serum and how much they would love it. And, and
Still a saleswoman.
oh my gosh, she was just, it made me laugh so much, but just so her passion to communicate with people was so strong. And yeah, so that was quite a difficult journey to navigate and to surrender to, really. I think, because we did all the things that we knew that in natural therapies and supporting the body. And we did smash it at one point. But then it did a little evil twist and turn and took her away from us. So it's difficult to realize sometimes that at some point the soul decides that it's going to do this instead of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you still feel her around when you're making decisions and doing your work?
A lot. Yeah. Yeah. So a lot. Yes, there's often like this little, or I can feel her presence quite a lot. And often, something will be happening. And I just get this feeling of like, oh my God, Mum would be loving this. She would just,
Mm.
I'm pretty sure she's sent this to
Oh,
us. So I do feel that, she has a lot of connection still in the space.
yeah. What a privilege to work with your mum, create a brand, create a business, and work with your mum and you to be carrying it on. How wonderful.
It has really been quite a beautiful gift and definitely a legacy that is an honor to continue on as well, apart
Yeah.
from my own passions. Yeah, definitely that aspect of a beautiful legacy.
Yeah. So blessed.
Mm.
So, what has building a business taught you about trusting yourself and in timing and in the process? How have you fared with the trust in business? What's it taught you?
Oh, one of the biggest things that's become very loud lately is really just um, the word trust is huge of self. Because, I think in business, there's a lot of things that you can feel that you should do, especially as your business grows and, um, there's talk of scaling and, all these kind of things. There's a lot of models that you're kind of expected to sit in to be successful or, people to find you or to see you as a serious business, those kind of things. And so being, again, I would like what we talked about before, being comfortable in my own skin, being comfortable in my business's skin has been a big one to learn to trust that and what is, her path, what is Mayella's path, and not to kind of get caught up in the comparison game of, I need to do that too, I need to achieve this goal, and realize that our path is, our path. That's been a big one. Patience has also been a big one, sitting in that too, along with trust and, working with budgets to achieve things as opposed to, I guess, again, if we compare Mayella to what we were talking around with bodies before, there's a certain program that runs with a lot of businesses these days where, you get investment or you have a certain budget and then you have all the things and then you SEO it, a million times and out it goes kind of thing. And it's a formula. And I think that's a hard one to not get into that comparison game with and just go, well, again, that's not our path. And we're not scaling to be bought out at a certain point and have it. What's your exit plan? That's a
Yeah.
big question that comes with business often, okay, so you're growing the business, what's your exit plan? And there's a lot of channels that you can sort of like, or grooves that you can, your record can turn to in business. And you really have to be quite discerning there about what it means to you to be successful, to achieve different goals, what those goals are really even. And I think
Yeah.
with the trust aspect, leaning into, again, that inner communication, that inner intuitive dialogue with
Yeah.
self and taking the time, that's again where the balance I think is very important, where as a business person, there's still that quality of life where you do make time for exercise, friends, meditation, quiet times, having a little break from the business, so that you can continue to see it with fresh eyes and not be
Yeah.
caught in a loop.
Because it can be all consuming.
Yeah.
And you are absolutely right. We often look at all of these models, and there is the comparison that creeps in, and that often that little inner voice that says, do more, be more, have more. When is it really what I want? A question that I find myself a lot asking myself is, what is it all about? What's it all for? I'll be 50 in February. And this is such a question at this time in my life. It's almost like you get to where you think you wanted to be,
Mm.
and then the questions arise. And then, before we hit record, we said simplify. For me, that's how I feel too. Simplify, simplify. And I've had different mentors over the years I've been in business. And sometimes it brings me further away from my own intuition, because I'm looking outside of myself for the magic pill, the magic, the magic formula, the magic strategy. When, yes, take what you want and leave the rest. And yes, there are some incredible people out there, and there's some wonderful things to learn. But ultimately, exactly what you're saying, Amanda, I agree. There still needs to be a balance and not an obsessiveness about it, which I've definitely had times like that where, and there is seasons in your business where I think you have to be in boots and all, like you're in the trenches. But then when it's not the season, and I also think it's also a choice going, this year, is it a hold steady, or is this year, are we going for the stars, or it is there is, you can actually choose, which I didn't realize for a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I know that is such a powerful realization, because in that instantly comes freedom, because that is one of my, I'll say, struggles, is, and why I guess I like being, even though being self-employed, you are, 24/7. It's, that feeling of freedom and be able to create in my own flow has always been quite a big driver for me. And when I've felt trapped or weighed down is when I'm, least thriving and able to create or be in the space. And at the moment, I feel like I've done a lot of healing and recalibrating and assessment, since mum passed, of like, because the temptation was there to let it all go, because it wasn't the same without her. And was I going to be able to do it without her, as well? Because it was a team, company. So where I'm sitting right now is kind of a little bit of a scary space in that, and also exciting, because I feel like I'm at the bottom of another mountain, and looking at integrating, more of me, the wisdom of who I am and where Mayella is now after 15 years as well. And bringing to life something that we created in 2020. We celebrated our 10th anniversary with an animation of Mayella's, where Mayella was created, and it's on our YouTube channel, and it's basically this little warehouse or this building on a farm, and the kids are in the animation, and myself and mum and our brand ambassador with her parrot, and another friend. And it's, the birds and the bees and everything getting poured into the bottles and being created with Mother Nature, which is, our everything from Mayella is made from Mother Nature's pantry. So I'm sort of in this little phase at the moment of, it just keeps, and I feel like mum is here saying, you've always wanted to do this. Let's make this real. And this space is coming to me in my what is it, in my energy, and it also physically it keeps coming up as well. This particular spot, to move Mayella to this spot, and it's like a little cottage in the country, and have a little tea house and offer treatments, and also teach there, because I have, a lot of years of working with people, and I know there's people who would like to be able to perhaps do things with their family, reflexology, little things, their babies, their children, their partners, and even practitioners to kind of finesse their skills or refresh or things like that. So there's a little, I'm at the bottom of another mountain, Emma.
Oh my goodness.
Bringing something to life, that is a
Yeah.
culmination of, where I've been. So,
Yeah. Oh, this is exciting and scary. And I can imagine, yeah, losing your mum leaving the planet, and then grief and the layers that we go through, the questioning of our own life.
yeah.
And then I can understand the temptation of going, do I let it all go, or no? Do we now move into our next evolution?
Yes. Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. Yeah. It was a big one because also like pulling back from the business, there was like, financial pressure and things like that as well. So it's been a matter of building things back up again and having that kind of, I'll say, fortitude to just kind of get the gears moving and the wheels turning and things as through that. So some quite interesting logistics as well as the emotional side of the things. Yeah.
yes. And that's exactly right. The fortitude. I always think of it like a huge jumbo jet
Mm.
getting it up off the runway. And you do coast for a bit. At some point, you've got to land and then refuel to go again. But it's getting it up off the tarmac, refueling, cleaning the plane out, restocking it to go again.
Yeah.
Which and if you have team, getting them back on the runway again with you to go again. It is not for the faint-hearted. It does take a lot of fortitude and a lot of energy. And it does take a bit of soul searching when you do get to another invitation for the next version of the business or the next evolution of the business. And then it does take that time to be able to sit. And I feel like I've been hearing lately, and I know it's very catchphrasy about our nervous system, but I do think there's some truth in this, is the strength of our nervous system, how much capacity we can hold. And we know that when the nervous system is frayed, or when the nervous system, because like you say, the truth is there is financial pressures, there is commitments. It's, when you break it down, when you're in business, it actually costs you money to open your doors every day. And there needs to be flow there to be happening. And we like to think it's not, but it's the truth. And we need to know our numbers, yet we still need to be able to, as the medicine woman, the creative, how do I then clear space for her to hear her intuition, her voice of wisdom?
Yes. Beautifully shared. Yes. And the description of that jumbo jet landing and taking off, like it's very tempting sometimes when you land just to go, I'm just going to cancel the next flight.
Yeah, totally, isn't it?
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Because then again, like you say, it's all right, here we go again, all hands on deck. Let's clear out, clean up, refuel. What do we need to do to go again? And that is, that is the bit. And when you think about as a business person, because there is, my saying with my husband and I mean, he's in business too, we eat what we catch.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's just how it is, right? So it's
Yeah.
always having to do that. But like you say, having time for friendship, walk, movement,
Mm.
and that space for creativity, because it's very tempting to just keep working. And on
Mm.
good days, I say, isn't it wonderful to have the freedom of a business? On a
Yeah.
bad day, I say, God damn these golden handcuffs. Like
Yeah.
and it's dancing in that, and doing what you love, and keeping some perspective, because there is, like you say, oh my goodness, the valleys and the mountains. Goodness gracious, isn't there?
So many valleys and mountains and little plateaus and odd the rainbow with the rainstorm and things like
Yeah.
I I another thing that I guess comes with wisdom is really weaving more closely and with even more love, the different facets of ourselves, because really that is who you are in business, and keeping them separate, it doesn't make you stronger. I think it makes you weaker, is one of the things I've learned. You're not truly being yourself. So
Yeah.
really embracing who we are in business and because it is a manifestation of ourself and
Yeah.
a living entity in itself, really. So
It
it's
is. It's an
touch.
extension. I agree. And there's a saying, Denise Duffield Thomas says, she says, the more me I am, the more money I make. And
Oh,
that's basically it. The more me you are, like exactly, we are not separate from our business at all. We are. And when people go, oh, don't take it personal, it's business. No, I am because this is this is
yeah.
really tough for me right now. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I remember exactly on that space. We had a trademark issue, which was particularly wrenching, and the finding at the end, because we didn't win after spending a lot of money on it or defending ourselves, was that, oh, you're a little business and they're a big business, so you won't even feel it, letting that go. And I was looking at the words and I was thinking, how obtuse is that? Because it's the other way around. When you're little, you feel everything. When you're a machine, big machine, you don't feel much at all. Things are bouncing off you all the time, and usually it's little businesses that are bouncing off you. And um, yeah, I remember thinking, wow, that hurts a lot because you're not being seen at all, for what it means to be uh, expressing yourself through everything that you do in the business. And
And two, because you put your heart and your
mm,
soul, you put everything on the line.
yes,
Everything.
everything. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything. And my auntie, who's 90 and one of our greatest advocates, she keeps saying, it's the frequency, Amanda. It's the frequency that you put into all those things. That's what makes it so good for you. And I'm like,
Oh,
that's right, Auntie Patricia.
oh, she's
I'm honoring her what she's saying because I love that she's very authentic in her practice as a spirit woman. But when she first said that, I was like, oh, I hadn't actually thought about that, but it's true, and then it's, seeing yourself constantly in the true expression of who you are, looking in the mirror and having those conversations, I think is very important. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful that she can be that mirror for you. So
Oh,
beautiful.
yeah,
What a
yeah.
blessing. That's why we need women in our life, which brings me to our next topic,
Mm,
which is your beautiful podcast that you co-host.
mm,
Now, how did you, because I believe this was your idea, this was your idea to start the podcast. And I'd
mm.
love to hear about the podcast and what kinds of stories do you feel the world needs more right now, especially from women?
Oh,
Can you tell me about the podcast and tell me what you feel women need to hear right now in the world?
yes, yeah. That makes me a bit emotional, actually, that whole um so well, my co-host Joe Hindi, who, as you said, has been on, is a dear friend of yours going back many, many years. We walk a lot in the mornings, and there was a little bit of an observation that often what we would sort of be, talking around and processing and clearing and, sharing would somehow kind of manifest into the day or into an outcome, during that week sort of thing. And it was quite exciting to experience that. And we just often, our words are powerful, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's true. And for me, communication is it's one of those things that I think is like breath, communication is so essential to, our body's communicating all the time, trillions of cells, constant communication with people. It's just such a essential dynamic in life. And the joy that we're having in our little day-to-day conversations with the walking, I just popped into my brain. I just said, we need to do a podcast. We need to share what we're talking around. And wouldn't, be amazing to talk to other people. And Joe was like, oh, that's confronting, and incubated that for a little while. And then one day she said, yes, let's do it. And then she came up with the name Girl Awakening, which just has been so profound in so many ways and such a perfect evolution of what our podcast is about. So, I'm really grateful for the co-creation we do in that space and how we're, similar in so many ways and different in lots of other ways. And that creates a beautiful magic of its own in the space, because it's not usual to have, two people and the third guest, three people. Sometimes, there's a lot of conversation going on in the moment. But it does create a lot of opportunity for a beautiful expansion of what the guest is bringing and what both Joe and I have to offer in the space too. So that's quite wonderful. So the awakening process that our guests are able to share is often quite an activation for the guests themselves. Like things often happen quite radically or beautifully in their own lives, in that they step more into their power afterwards, after sharing their awakenings, which is their stories of who they have been and who they are now. And I think there's something powerful that comes with verbalizing ourself out loud in,
Yeah.
sacred space of the podcast, anywhere, over a cup of tea, anywhere. It doesn't need to be a podcast, but podcasts are just such an incredible, I think, gift to the listener and gift to the people that are participating, because they are communications that ripple out far and wide, through the internet, but also through the ethers. And I think that's just really been in these last few years, particularly with so much happening in our beautiful planet, that it's been wonderful for people to connect with other people through conversations and people sharing their
Yeah.
journeys and their wisdom, or we've learned so much. It's a different space from social media. It's really much more profound and
Very intimate, I think. It's
intimate.
very intimate. I
Mm.
think it is. And you're right. It's that beautiful connection of people having a conversation, those words going out into the ethos and just that specialness. Have you had a favorite? I mean, it's hard to say you've had a favorite guest, but have you had a podcast that you were just like, oh my gosh, that was profound and stayed with you? Because you've had some really interesting guests and really interesting topics. I forget your gorgeous lady about near death experiences. I mean, I think she's been on a couple of times. The childology,
Yeah, Dr. Maxine, yes.
Dr. Maxine. That's it. Yes, but I mean, I've just said that one there. So any of our listeners, go and listen to Girl Awakening, listen to Dr. Maxine. I think those couple of interviews are really interesting. But have you had, I know it's hard to pick a favorite, but has there been one that comes to mind that just you thought, wow, that stayed with you for a while?
Well, yes, as you say, it's hard to pick a favorite, and Dr. Maxine was a beautiful example of, like, she'd never shared her near death experience, her NDE, before. Only her immediate family knew of it because they were there. So that was truly a great honor to open that gift for everybody to receive. And I think I can think of a handful of our guests, and the ones and that is probably the ones that stand out the most, where people are so in the moment where they're enjoying being with us in the space, and they open themselves up more than they have ever done before, because the questions that we're asking are a little bit different. It's not a typical kind of you know, tell us about your book, tell us about your movie, tell us about your this. It's literally about their awakening experience, which, when people start to think about that, it takes them perhaps places where they haven't really been for a long time. And often there's a childhood and a child experience, or an illness or an accident, something that's quite shaping them in a way that they haven't chosen necessarily, but they have chosen it, not consciously chosen it, to create change, to bring them to who they are meant to be. And I think some of my favorites, if you want to say favorite, or most elevated energy, are ones where people have shared things in the moment that they haven't actually thought about for quite a while themselves.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's always such a gift. And the energy in the space, even when you're not physically sitting together, is very, very tangible and magical. So
Mm.
yeah.
It's a great platform, just a great. So for all of our listeners, definitely go and listen to Girl Awakening podcast with Amanda and Joe, because there is some really great interviews and conversations on the podcast that are just fascinating, all different topics. And you're right. Sometimes I'll hear things go, oh, goodness, that was a share. But that's part of that awakening. But I do feel like, anyone who listens to it is I think like-minded and is open to listening to these conversations with really big topics and quite esoterical. Like I feel like the
Yes.
flavor is quite esoterical, which is wonderful, which is joyful. Yeah, I really enjoy it. So Amanda, tell me, where can we find you? Of course, the Girl Awakening podcast, and then Mayella, is it? I mean, I've got you, people can't see it, but I've got my beautiful tea, which I've been sipping here, your beautiful Beauty and Brains, but you've got some gorgeous products and people can work with you as well, can't they? So are you happy to direct people? It will be in the show notes, but if anyone wants to have a quick look while they're listening to this podcast, where can they find you?
Probably the easiest way to find us is through the website, mayellaorganic.com. And we have a little chat box on the website that is a real person on the end of it, not a robot. So you can always reach out to us through the little chat box or the contact us page, which is going to get to me, whether it's about the Mayella itself, the products, or whether it's about reaching me for, say, a treatment, looking at having some reflexology or things like that. And then there's links to our socials from the website as well, and we have lots of blogs on there too with wellness tips and information just to support that everyday wellness journey.
Beautiful. Thank you, Amanda. I want to say thank you so much for your time today and your wisdom. It's always wonderful to chat to you. So to all of our listeners, definitely check out the podcast, Girl Awakening. Check out Mayella Organics website. All the links will be in the show notes. Oh, yeah.
I just want to say a little special thank you to Emma for this book, 360 Days of Morning Magic. It's a most wonderful creation, and it's truly a gift that everybody should give to themselves, because it's part of what we've been talking around, really, that balance in life where it is so easy to create time for yourself, and having the right tools makes it even more beautiful and easier with profound results. And I think what I love about your book is it's kind of what my auntie says to me about the frequency in our products. I can really feel you coming through this book. It's like having a little conversation with you in the mornings when I open the book. And today I opened the book because they're dated. Today I opened in July, and the 2 pages, I always read both pages, the left and the right. I try not to be biased. And the left page was inner light and connecting to my inner light, and meditation and mantra, I am light, and then the flowetry prompts, which I just adore that word. And what I find going through the process of these 3 stages is it gives me a chance for tapping into myself and reflection and actually momentum forward as well. So, and then the other page was crack open. So I think it was perfect for today because I've never been on a podcast by myself before and been interviewed before. So it was just a perfect little thing to go, okay, well, crack yourself open and remember that I am the light and my light is here to be shared. So thank you for that morning magic.
Oh, thank you, my darling. So good to chat. Lovely. Thanks, everyone. Please check out the show notes, and definitely you will see all the wonderful things Amanda does and her beautiful podcast. So thank you, my love.
Thank you, Emma. Bye.
Empower your midlife. Hello, beautiful. Are you navigating this time of life but craving more calm, confidence and connection with your body? I've created a 3-day course designed just for women like you and I. With simple mindset shifts, soothing meditations and gentle yoga, you'll feel more grounded and less stressed and deeply empowered. It's time to embrace this chapter of life with a little more self-love and ease. There's a link in the show notes. Join me.